Grayskull is a fan podcast exploring the vast worlds of He-Man and She-Ra. Join Shawn Scavarna and Matthew Duke as they discuss the history and mystery of Eternia and Etheria, diving deep into all incarnations of Masters of the Universe.
Hey, you know who's back? It's the Legends of Grayskull podcast. Now that you know, let's go. Get ready for the show. It's the Legends of Grayskull podcast. Sit back and enjoy the ride. Right now.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 105 of Legends of Grayskull, the fan podcast where we discuss the history, the mystery, the magic, and mythology of He-Man, She-Ra, Eternia, Etheria, and Order of Primus, New Adventures, Old Adventures, Ladybird, UK Annals, comics, mini comics, anything and everything you can think of with that He-Man, She-Ra, Masters of the Universe, Princess of Power, that Mattel logo down in the corner. I'm Matthew Duke, here again with Shawn Scavarna. Shawn, how are we doing today?
Pretty darn good. Every time we hear that theme song courtesy of Jeremy DeWitt, it's usually the earworm that gets me through the week until we hit Off-World, and then that is the earworm that gets me to the next episode of our show.
Absolutely. I also like how you looked to the side there, like you had to read Jeremy's name off a cue card. Like, who did that song? It was DeWitt. That's who.
I literally had.
That's right.
I woke up 5 hours after falling asleep because I realized I had to get our lawn waste out this morning. So it's like 6:30 running for the door going, please God, don't let them already have dropped by. And everything else this morning has been seat of my pants, figuring it all out, but having this daze around me because of only 5 hours of sleep. So I am chugging coffee.
It has definitely been one of those days. I completely agree. We have our lawn waste pickup is today as well, and I had all mine out. I don't think I mentioned it, and even to you privately, I don't think. But my dad has been staying with us. He's in the process of moving. Him and his wife bought a house out in Arizona. He's transferring out there. But they had to close on their old house before his job was ready to transfer him. So they bought the new house, closed on the old house, but he still had like 2 months of the job. So his wife went out there, he stayed here, and he's been living with us. And normally he's gone for work like first thing in the morning. He's a service tech. He usually gets calls or he just has stuff to do. And of course, this was the morning he wasn't. My wife leaves for work. She's like, hey, the waste guys are down the street. I look out. My dad's truck is on the street right in front of our stuff. I'm like, if I don't do it now, it's waiting until next week. So I got to go find his keys, move his truck. On top of all that, today is back to school day in our lovely town. So I'm trying to get the kids ready out the door, first day of school. So not to rub it in your face, Shawn, but I got a quiet household right now, except for my little gremlins.
Well, the thing that got me is the day after my son's birthday this year is the first day of school.
Oh, wow.
And all summer, because now is the year. This is the first year he's legitimately excited for his birthday because he realizes it's a day about him, because all the way up until 6 years old, it didn't register. So today, he's when we're eating breakfast, he goes, it's only 15 more days to my birthday. And I go, and it's only 16 more days until the first day of school. And my daughter just sits there and looks at me, and I go, hilarious. I can't wait. I go, he's been counting down to your first day of school for months, and it actually took me until today until it registered. Like, there's only this many days left too. This is so great. And she's just like, I hate you. And I go, I don't care. I'm going to be in the Congo line with the other parents going down our street first day of school, like, I'm free for at least 6 hours.
Hey, but, that's all we need. And I love my kids. You love your kids. We all love our kids.
But this summer, it has been. It's just the whole, oh my God, I just need not to be in 3 different places in the house all at the same time for once. So it will be it will be. I'll still be working, but it will be like a vacation just to know that I don't have to have them, and they can go learn in a couple weeks.
And I can just sit and get my stuff done. And,
and they can come home and I can go, wow, I missed you all day. This is great.
Right. If you love something, let it free.
Absolutely. And then if they don't go free, then after the age of 18, you do like in Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire, rent. You keep doing that then.
100%. I did have I got a pickup to show off actually. At my local Walmart yesterday, I found a nice $6 Roton.
Ooh.
I told myself I wasn't going to get them. Then I saw that clearance price. I'm like, well, for $6, like,
yeah,
you got to. So
absolutely.
It's funny. I love the traditional boxes with the flap and everything. It obviously takes you back, but I gotta imagine the workers hate these damn. I know the lady was trying to put in a bag at the checkout, and she's like, I'm like, just give it to me. Like, that's... And I remember growing up, whenever we got these as a present, Mom would always hit that flap down,
same,
and wrap it up as a box. So
but
yeah, wonderful packaging as always. Oddly enough, the back has flaps, but they weren't in at all. It's taped, but loose. Other than that, but they got clearance right now. I picked up a $6 Shadow Weaver from the Masterverse line. It's making it really hard for me to pay full price anymore. I was at Target the other day, and they had the whole the new deluxe wave of Masterverse, Clawful, Ram Man, and Whiplash. And that Masterverse Whiplash looks absolutely amazing in person. Even I liked him just from the pictures, but even more so seeing him on the shelf, I'm like, he looks amazing. But man, those things are up to $33 now, and I'm just like, I can't pull the trigger. Like, as much as I love them, and I'm probably gonna regret it. And they're probably, because there's been those waves that sell out. There's been the waves that go to clearance. Like, you can never guess. But I'm just like, man, with all the clearance going on, I just can't bring myself to drop 33 on one Masters figure. As bad as that sounds.
I don't blame you based on, I mean, every now and then I'll still even grab like a Marvel Legends depending what the figure is and stuff. But 9 out of 10 times I'm buying it online and it's, a secondary market or whatever. And then typically I'm like, all right, fine, whatever. I'm paying like a few bucks extra, but at least I get it in hand. I'm happy. But we are at a point where with a lot of these lines, it's like, okay, I understand that costs will go up, and with the corporate side, like Mattel and Hasbro and places like that, they are going to keep going up because it's corporate versus some of the other people. Again, we'll do a shout out for Horsemen, for instance. They typically, with some of the pre-order stuff, you can still get things in for $25, and there's a lot more to it versus what the corporate brands are doing. But at the same time, if you love it, you're gonna want it one way or the other. If you're like me, where it's great that stuff's out there for the people that love it, that is the case as well. But these are going to clearance faster than I would have expected. And I haven't been checking my stores, but just from what I've seen you posting lately, like, I'm surprised to see Shadow Weaver on clearance already, because she wasn't that long ago.
That's the odd thing, right? Like, so, like, the Shadow Weaver wave, so Shadow Weaver, Frosta, I can't remember who else is in that wave, but like that, like you said, that's a recent wave. That went to clearance right away. Yeah. That deluxe Hordak and She-Ra from Masterverse, those went to clearance like right away. But then like King Grayskull and Trapjaw never went to clearance.
Because they're exclusives, if I remember right.
No, they weren't. No,
they were.
They might have been Target. So you might be right on that
King
one.
Grayskull and Trap. I don't know about Trapjaw, but I think King Grayskull specifically was Target because he had the red cape and all that, and he always liked to be the red with anything Target related. Because I don't remember seeing him anywhere other than Target.
It might be. Well, and that's the other hard thing for me to keep track of because for like Target will get one wave, Walmart will get another wave, and they're not necessarily exclusive, but that's just how it works out. Like not every store gets every wave anymore. Yep. But anyways, and like the same thing. So like, but then for the Origins, the the devil wave of Sorceress, Buzz-Off, Jitsu, and Naked Stratos that's everywhere, has been everywhere for like years now. I mean, that was the wave that came out right after the PowerCon I went to. So that was 2021 because that's when they were fixing their distribution, and that had a big increase. That has never gone to clearance in my wave, in my area. But figures that have come out after that have. Like, it's so weird how they decide that. And I can't figure it out. I'm going to embiggen myself for a minute here and show this off. They actually did a really good job on this. He's looking just like the vintage. He's got the guns. They are removable as well. I got to imagine they would fit in a figure's hand. They did add little handles on either side so you could actually, have your guy controlling it. Yeah. It's got 3 wheels. If I recall, the vintage only had 1. And it does have the click in the roll. So yeah, it looks amazing. I haven't held a vintage one in a long time, but holding this, I feel like it's looking just like the vintage to me. And then it does come with the additional faceplate that makes it look like the model kit face. And that just snaps on real easily like that. And then it does also have the canopy, which came with the model kit as well. And that snaps. Yes, I swear it does. That snaps right on top. It's actually got some good detail to it. It's got reflections a little bit, but the ridge actually continues up there. Yeah. So, yeah, that's
very cool.
$6. I bought 2. I probably should have bought more, honestly.
Yeah, I was just thinking that, like, hell, get 4 of them. You can army build
and do some different looks. Do a regular face with the canopy, this way, and like you can mix and match and come up with some variations.
Absolutely. You got 4 looks just based on having 4 of them, and then get like 2 more just for the hell of it, and then just there you go. You got a whole army of Rotons, just like if it was Revelation or whatever.
Oh, and that reminds me, actually, I did meant to say there is a little port here that looks like it looks like the same port on the bottom of the Sky Sleds. So I'm thinking if you use that flying base, it doesn't come with one, but it looks like you can use one of the ones you already have and make him fly. Bad finger
That's cool.
Make him fly like the cartoon. So
nice.
All right, now I got a question for you, Sean.
Oh.
My phone just notified me that my front doorbell was just pushed. Should I run up and see if there's a package up there?
Go. Do it
All
now.
Right. You entertain the folks. I'll be back.
I'll entertain the folks. I don't know what I'm going to entertain them with, but I'll entertain them with something. I got a notification that I have a bill, so that sucks. So here's something that just today I found out about this on the Mondo groups on Facebook. Apparently, and this was from Mondo Direct, at least answering the question, the Battle Cat is just beginning to ship to people. So that's pretty darn cool. I'm slightly concerned and worried because I set up all of these bookshelves that you see behind me every episode. There are 5 in total. If I got it right. No, 6 in total. And I still haven't even set them up properly. And now I got one of the biggest pieces that I already was allotting for coming in, that now I got to figure out how am I working that in here, because when I first set these up, I honestly was not expecting to have as much space taken up by what I have on them already. But the really cool thing is I will be reviewing the Mondo Battle Cat once I get it in. I'll be doing another one of those live reviews like I did for Anti-Eternia He-Man. So I will promote that when the time comes. Check it out.
All right, we got a package.
You got a package.
Fresh off the truck. It is from...
Has that old truck scent about it.
Return address is PowerCon Store, Columbus,
And the
Ohio.
drama ensues. Those people who are listening were not privy to our private message chat on the Off-World chat that we have, so they have no idea all of the drama that led up to this moment. But yeah.
Ton of packing material. Very nicely packed, and we do have the Four Horsemen's, not Mythic Legions, Demistros, the PowerCon exclusive. I should probably embiggen myself again.
Embiggen you.
So yes, it comes in the special PowerCon packaging, August 11th through 13th. Bio on the side. Not really. It says Four Horsemen Studios are proud to have been a part of PowerCon since its inception. For 2023, our studio is excited to have been asked to create a special release for the show, the demonic warlord known as Demistros. This figure is not a tribute to any existing character. Instead, this villain was created in the spirit of the action figure toy lines that so many of us remember from our youth. Whatever world Demistros may exist in, you can guarantee he is working to overthrow it, just as you can rest assured that there are heroic champions ready to thwart his evil plans. So we're going to go ahead and pop this baby right open. But yeah, amazing packaging. There will be a regular release of Demistros from the Four Horsemen directly. And it will not have the translucent head and hands. And already I see that I have the issue that I have seen other people have. And that is that he does not have his cape with him. And I've seen that going around already this morning.
Oh.
So in the back package, you have the regular hands. You have the shoulder pauldrons. You got the sword that we've seen a ton of times. I have to take some better pictures, but it's really nice glowing green runes on it. Mason chain. And then his standard skull-colored head, which I really do like that too.
Yeah.
Obviously, the translucency is what got me to where he was a can't pass up figure. Too many twist ties, Horsemen. Come on now. I'm just glad this came in time for the show. Let our viewers get a first peek at it. Twist tie, twist tie, twist tie.
That makes me think of Dora the Explorer with the backpack on.
Well, I'm sure that was... and he does have the other weapon there, that
the spear.
axe spear thing.
Yeah.
Nice colors on all the weapons in the armor, by the way. He comes with one of the newer style belts with the hanger in front and the little sheaths on the side.
Yeah.
I want to say this collar piece is even new. Sean, you could probably know better than I do because it's actually got like a bone pattern. on it.
I want to
and
say that's one that they've already had, but I could be wrong because I don't think I remember that back piece to it.
yeah, that's what I don't recognize.
That
Is
might
that
be
like
one of the few new pieces for him.
yeah.
'Cause everything else, other than the translucency, I think is like here's the reuse of parts, but I think that collar piece might be the only thing.
Yeah. If not, I'm thinking it's got to be one of the figures that hasn't actually come out yet. One that's been pre-ordered but not there.
Yeah.
Curtis is probably yelling at his screen right now because he would know exactly.
Well, he's probably doing that just because.
So yeah, I love this paint job. It reminds me of like the L.O.G type paint job with like the oxidation and everything. Beautiful, stunning figure. Hopefully they're planning on sending out capes because he's supposed to have a very unique cape with like leather straps. I remember C. Jessam was very hyped about it. He even did it like in his own Facebook post, like, hey, this is what I wanted to add special straps to this one and they let me. And unfortunately it's not here. So
it's like Legion's Con last year. They had the unknown one.
Yeah.
And he didn't have the waist piece, the skirt. So then they were handing them out separately. And if you missed it, like you walk the convention floor and you just find them all over the place. You can grab how many of them, sell them online if you wanted to, because people after the fact were like, wait, I didn't get one of those. Yeah, you did. You probably just dropped it. So
picking up money. God, he is a beautiful figure. And I'm very glad to have him. However, I do feel it's a little wrong that I got him before the convention even starts.
Your dog agrees, apparently.
Coco agrees very much. Keep it down over there. And I get it. Like, for me, it's hard. Like, I know PowerCon is a smaller convention, run by Val Staples. Like, and I mean no ill will towards anyone, but I'm just going to tell you how I feel, because to me, like, one of the things about attending a convention, one of the perks to that is you get first crack at the convention exclusive. That's one of the draws. And actually, this started back. So first, PowerCon said that they would only have non-attendee sales if they had product left over after the show. And that details of that would come after the show, which is traditionally how they've done PowerCons in the past. I know last year was the first all new, all different, and they didn't have the exclusives. But before that, that's how it was. Like, they'd had the con. If there was stuff left over afterwards, they'd set a date after the con, and then you could purchase them then there as a non-attendee. And that's what they'd initially said they were going to do this year. Then they changed it, and they allowed the non-attendee sales beforehand, which I was thankful for, because I cannot go this year. I don't have enough vacation time or anything. So, I'm like, okay, that's cool. I can make sure I get mine now, pay a little bit more because I'm paying shipping. That's great. And they said, obviously non-attendee exclusives will ship out shortly after the con, which absolutely, that's how it should be. And so imagine my surprise last Saturday when I get a shipping notice. And I'm thinking, okay, well, they've got the manpower there now, so they're just packing it up and shipping, creating boxes and labels. I mean, I've had a ton of people do that. I'll get a label has been created, and then it's 2 weeks later when it actually ships. Like, they print them in batches or whatever. But as you can see, today is Wednesday, August 9th, and my Demistros just got delivered. I don't know. It makes me feel funny holding him before all these people. These people are currently traveling across the country, across the world in some cases, and yet some schmuck in Indiana got his first. Like, it just, I don't know. It's really weird. It's like, I guess my biggest thing is just like, follow the plan. If you as a company say you're going to do something, do it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can agree with that, because even if you're doing all the legwork to get there,
Yep.
for anyone attending, whether you're local or whether you're, across the world like you're talking about, and there is that feeling of like some of that stuff should be waiting for you instead of it showing up to somebody who can't get. I completely get that. Like, instead of shipping them last week, ship them Monday after the convention's over. That to me is a simple fix, but I'm a little confused why they didn't do that way. I don't know. Like, I said it before the show, and it's like, I feel like it wouldn't be PowerCon if there wasn't something one way or the other where they go, yeah, we might rethink that in the future or whatever, and take it into consideration, because it's the damned if you do, damned if you don't mentality. They're trying to make as many people happy as they can, but then they're still going to annoy somebody with whatever version of happy they're trying to give to the fans. So it's like, it's great that Val's still doing it. It's great that it is still a convention, and it's great that it's growing each year and it's becoming its own thing again. Not just exclusively Masters. And there were a lot of people last year that went that were really excited to come back because they love the experience. So there's that. But I also wouldn't want to be Val for the fact that you have to make everybody happy somehow. And yeah, so.
Yeah, you definitely can't please everyone. There's going to be complainers either way. I just, I think there are better ways to handle it, and just be upfront beforehand, so that everyone knows all the options. Yeah. But yeah, this is a beautiful figure. I popped that off because I noticed something that even I missed at first. And I'm also a guy who doesn't like pore over like all the release details. Like, I'll look at a figure and be like, that's cool, I want him or I don't want him. But I won't like zoom in or analyze or anything. I do that for when I have the figure in hand. So you might already know this, but like the inside of the collar, if I can get it to go in, is actually like this red, like quilted pattern.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there we go. Look at that.
That's cool.
It's even got like the little dots and everything, like where the buttons would be.
Yeah.
Very well done. I will say the collar. I don't know what I'm going to do with him, because the collar kind of it really inhibits his head motion, especially because he's got those spikes in the front, because the Belphegor head. But I really don't like the look of him without the collar either, so I'm not sure what I'm going to do there. But
he missed neck day.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe if I get the pauldrons on there, it might help it out.
The one thing about Mythics that I've learned is there are certain figures that, whether they have the articulation or not, there are certain figures that just lend themselves to, you put them in a pose and that's the end of it. And I'm not saying that's a negative, but it's just with the reuse of parts, sometimes that's how it works, because the parts might look really awesome together, but then when you actually try to move them in certain ways, you're like, it's going to just stay there then. And that's fine, because I'm one of those people, I pose them once and I usually leave them on the shelf that way, and that's my happy spot. So.
I agree. I like to try and get a little variation on the heads, like like just some kind of maybe cocked, or just a little like, so they're not all just,
sure,
old school Star Wars, like
forward,
like
the kind where with any of the skeleton figures,
I
always like having their heads like this to give you that, like,
that little
they're undead, and it's like the zombie vibe, like I don't want them to just be upright like they're a normal person anymore, because it does have like, make them look like they're staggering and their heads off to the side a little bit, and then it's like, that's something that you can't reason with. It gives you that like slightly unsettling kind of a feeling looking at them. But I would be happy with just that one.
Yeah.
And this the thing is, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it's actually a lot more stunning in person even than online, like the different textures and the cracks and everything. Like, it's literally just the Belphegor head. Yeah. But this paint job makes it completely different. And I think I'm gonna have to upgrade one of my skeletons. Maybe like Malleus, who's got a pretty plain skull.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta find something to do with this head. It's too good not to.
Absolutely. Yeah, like I like translucent, but when this one was up for pre-order, I knew I couldn't afford it because that was just that era for me. And
Yep.
now I'm looking at it going, I'd rather just have that version anyway, because that fits more the aesthetic of what I have on my shelf.
Yep.
Compared to, I don't have any translucent Legions figures right now, so
You don't have Hagnon?
no.
Sacrilege.
Are you kidding me? After all of that Cullen Culp stuff? No, of course I'm not gonna have Agnon to be a constant reminder of that. It's like Cullen's a good guy.
We love you,
No issue
Cullen.
with him. It's his
You spam a lot.
it's his campaigning that made me just go, I don't, if I even hear the word or hear the name Hagnon, or if I see, I get triggered and I lose my shit every time, and I'm tired of it. So he will never be in my collection, and I'm okay with that. But I actually have some cosmics I opened up that I'm tempted to show off real quick since we're doing show and tell. But one other thing I wanted to throw out there, because it's PowerCon related, since we're talking that right now.
Yep.
And it's kind of, I wouldn't say it's Masters, but it's Masters adjacent. Eamon O'Donoghue, who has worked with the brand, he's actually done some of the Masterverse packaging previously and stuff. He is teaming up with the Frank Frazetta family,
girls, right?
the Frazetta girls, and they're now doing action figures of a lot of the Frazetta characters. And their first one is Dark Wolf. And he showed that off, and it was up for pre-order in the last 2 weeks, and you can still get it on Big Bad Toy Store. But when he's going to be at PowerCon booth 436, and he will have the prototype with him, so you can show that off. It should be even in package, from what I understand. So that's their first foray into that, and it looks gorgeous. I had to do a pre-order on that one. But yeah, 436. If you're at PowerCon and you want to check it out, there you go. And I mean, heck, he's freaking Roast Google podcast, one of the first guys on that as a host and everything too. So he has a very lengthy past with the Masters brand. So
while we're on that doing shout outs, I want to go ahead and shout out Tom Brisky Art, who will also be at PowerCon. He is an amazing artist. He does these vintage shirts that look like the Topps trading cards. He'll be at table 430. And he's also got this year, he's got plushes of Pookie and the Schminovitz is I really want that Schminovitz. Right here. All this time I'm like, okay, I'm fine with not going to PowerCon. And then Tom shows this off, and he doesn't do online sales. It's only in person.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, God damn it, I need those. He's also doing, this is pretty cool. He's got the Orko's Magic Trick buttons. If you remember the vintage toy, Orko came with that coin trick. So you got the buttons that look like that. He's going to have different characters at different booths, and I don't remember whose is where. But you got some people announced them, some people haven't, because I've only seen a couple. So like Orko will be at, I'm just throwing out, like Orko will be at Frazetta Girls booth. I'm not saying it is. It's there. And then like Tila will be at another booth, and Skeletor will be at another booth. So you got to kind of hunt them down around the convention floor. Fun. Yeah, it's like a fun scavenger hunt and cool product. So so PowerCon this weekend, August 11th, 12th, and 13th. And check out Tom Brisky art. He's got some great stuff, and I'm sure he'll have like his regular stuff. I mean, That's who I couldn't remember the other day. That's who made the magic or the Golden Discs of Knowledge coasters. I got these from him at the PowerCon out in Anaheim. So I'm sure he'll still have stuff like this. And he just does. He has lots of great products. So check him out. Support him. It's amazing. So Sean, you wanted to show off some cosmics?
I'll show off a couple. So I did show him off on Off-World last week, but I'm going to show him off here too. So this is pretty much the main character of Cosmics. This is Oleg Thygar. Let me see if I can do this. Let me see.
What are you doing?
Nope, I did it on the wrong one. I got you biggened. There we go. So this is Oleg Thygar. This is the main character of Cosmics for the time being, at least. And he was the first one I opened, and it took me 2 hours or more to take in all the details and all the options of this figure. So he's definitely pretty cool. Really love him. And then another one that I was really excited to get in hand, and she's kind of a sleeper hit of the wave, is Vorga.
Oh yeah, she's nice.
She is. I always equate her to Vasquez from Aliens, sorry,
right?
Because of the heavy artillery gun here and all that stuff. But just in general, this is one of those figures. Again, you can take in all of the details. There's even a tattoo that Nate Barch and Eric Treadaway designed together that she's got there, which I think she's the only one tattooed, if I remember right, in the first wave. But yeah, I mean the only negative to her is this freaking ammo chain from the backpack, because it does actually hinder her with her legs with like wide stances and stuff like that because of the way the rubber works. But for the most part, she's still a freaking gorgeous figure. So.
Does it not detach?
It does, but my thing with that, like, it would work better if it just went between her legs and then you attach it, but it just doesn't look right that way because it looks like you will trip over it if you're running. So I'm trying to keep it the way that I would imagine it should work, but because it winds around her, it just pushes her leg in all the time, and it drives me crazy. But beyond that, that's my only complaint, and that honestly is not that big of a complaint because everything else is freaking great about her. But yeah, I've been opening these over the last week. I've had different waves of them coming in. I had like mostly the name figures come in, and then I had some of the army builder ones come in. And honestly, like these are, I was not expecting to like them as much as I like them. So we'll have to see how that plays out in the long run.
No, they look good. I'm still pretty good. I've been able to like I appreciate looking at them. Yeah, but definitely hasn't hit me. The bug hasn't hit me yet. I still don't have any, but so far the only one out of the first wave is Kragnar. Like he's the only one I'm like I've got to get him at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, I still don't have him. Slog, I haven't even worried about the science officer and the shirtless Oleg. Those are the only ones from the first wave I didn't worry about. But everybody else I've gotten one of, and then I got those Sphexians, and I have like multiples of them because it's cool that you can army build them. And I have 2 other sentries coming in that I think should be here today. And that's pretty much like, after that, I'm like, I'm done. I want an Operative 85. That's like my must-have now. And he'll be at PowerCon. Yeah, he'll be over at PowerCon, but I did not get in on his pre-order when he was up, so I'll have to figure out who I'm going to pick him up then. So,
okay, just got an email from PowerCon.
Oh. They responded to us.
They heard us, and they're like, "Hey, we got to get ahead of this. Let's get a statement out." All right. So it's possible your Demistros is missing his soft goods cape and skirt. Apparently, he's supposed to come with a skirt as well. The factory was unable to insert these in time into all of the figures. They got to get this figured out. Like, what is going on with why is this such a hard thing to get soft goods in there? That's me. Sorry. I will, from here on, I will read the message, then we'll talk. The factory was unable to insert these in time into all of the figures. Luckily, the Four Horsemen sent us the capes separately. Unfortunately, in our haste and excitement to get these figures to you earlier than planned, we forgot to include the cape for some orders. We suck. We're very sorry. That was them. Yours may have the cape and skirt, but some shipments do not. So if you find that your Demistros cape and skirt are missing, please reply to this message and let us know. We will get this mailed to you in the 2 or 3 weeks that follow the convention once we've had a chance to regroup and recover. There are only enough extra capes and skirts to supply the figures that are missing them. So please, please, please only contact us if you are genuinely missing a cape. Because if you ask for a cape and skirt, but you already have them, we'll be shortchanging a fan who really needs one to complete their figure. Again, we're sorry for the mishap and hope you'll forgive us. And please only reply if you're missing a cape and skirt to let us know so we can get this mailed after the convention. Thank you, PowerCon. So see, nothing good comes from trying to do things faster than originally planned.
And honestly, that whole email, I'm not trying to be mean, but it's like that whole email basically stinks of we shouldn't have done what we did. And it's like, seriously, Monday to Friday next week, you could have just figured that out and just had it all situated, send them out after that versus, I get the whole, it's, whenever I buy a present for somebody, I'm usually wanting them to know what it is within a few days of me buying it because I'm excited to give it to them.
Yep.
But you still gotta wait until the day that you're supposed to give it to them. If it's a birthday or Christmas,
you tell me before you ship a present to me what it is.
Well, that's different.
How's that different?
Because it's not a birthday or Christmas. We're talking about PowerCon. It's a legit, here is the day you're supposed to get it.
Snake Armor He-Man and Battle Armor King Hiss. You gave me for my birthday. You can go back and watch the episode. And you told me, hey, this is what I got you for your birthday. I'm going to ship it next week.
Yeah. I'm horrible like that, and that's what Val Staples is doing. It's like, hey, guess what? You get a Demistros, by the way. I'll get you the rest of it about a month from now. It's exactly how it feels. It's like you're so excited to have it. You want to get rid of it as soon as you get it, but you didn't have all the pieces together to give it properly. Now it's like, here's more money that they have to spend on shipping to get it out.
That's what sucks, right? Every mistake costs you money, and I feel bad for them now but I mean, I'm getting my cape. That cape's amazing. It's a whole new one. Like I said, it's got actual leather straps that like connect it. Like it's an amazing cape. I could care less about the skirt because I'm sure it's probably just the same unknown one. I didn't even remember that was supposed to come with a skirt, but that cape is so striking. I'll definitely be reaching out for that. This kind of saves it for me a little bit in the long run because now it's like, okay, I got my figure first, but the PowerCon goers are going to get the complete figure.
They're going to get the complete figure.
So,
but and that's it's going to cost them shipping, and then on top of it, they're doing that whole do not contact us unless. Yeah. And it's like,
there's some asshole out there who's going to be like, oh, I can get a second cape. Awesome.
Absolutely. And that's something where it's like you're opening up the problems even more now, that there could be people wanting to take advantage of this and just say, hey, and then, I don't want you to be out the cape or whatever. I don't want anyone else to be out the cape. But
exactly.
There are people out there that I'm sure would love to see this email and go, I'm going to tell them I got two. But maybe they can go through the shipments and double check this person only ordered one, he gets one, and I'm hoping that's what they do. And
I'm sure they'll verify that, but I don't think, unfortunately, I don't think they have any way of knowing which shipments got the cape and which didn't. So, like, I can see Matt got one figure.
Yeah.
But did he get the cape? And that's the honor system.
Yeah. And
so
that's
be honorable, guys. Come on, Legends of Grayskull. Honor and power. Let's go. Woo.
Exactly.
So I might actually. So obviously, I love this figure. I love mace weapons. I hate how mace weapons just dangle there.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I've heard in it like clear nail polish or super glue, like you coat it on there and you can actually like form the chain. I might have to try that.
I've heard that, or something else that it just dawned on me is maybe you even could take the wire that the figure, it's wrapped up for the figure or whatever, and maybe you can loop that through it and cut off the excess, and then it might work too. And then you have, at least it's a wire where you can bend it in different positions compared to once you do fingernail polish, you're going to end up having it in one position and that's it.
Yeah. I still think I'm going to try something. I'm going to play around with this and try, because I love mace weapons. I love that they use the real chain, but like on the shelf like that, I don't. It's like
he's not intimidated.
No, but if I can actually like loop it like up and like he's actually like swinging, that could look pretty cool. So,
agreed.
I have lots of fun with this figure. Check out PowerCon this weekend. I know our lovely compatriot Jesse Arnold will be there. Is he helping out with Almeida's booth? Or Almeida doesn't have a booth this year. I can't remember now. I feel bad.
I don't remember because I heard one thing and then I think that was...
Yeah, I think something changed.
So he's there. I don't think he's there in any kind of like exhibitor way. He's there as just an attendee. So if you see him, say hi.
Yep.
And other than that, all four of us will be in the same place for Legion's Con. So if a bomb goes off there, there's no more entertainment on this channel. That's all we know.
Man, you went dark.
I just
go see Jesse. Have fun. Don't pay attention to Shawn. He's in a dark place.
There was literally like there was a point. I think it was when I was at G-Con last year. There was a point where somebody leaned over. They go, "If a bomb goes off near here, you realize the whole line is done." And I was like, I'm kind of worried right now. It just transferred into that. Yeah.
So do we need to do the 4 horsemen like the president and the vice president? Like they can't travel on the same plane?
I think it's wise. I mean, I know I'm guessing Cornboy and oh geez. Why am I not remembering his name now? I feel really
Eric?
bad.
Jim.
No, Eric I think stays behind. But Jim. It'll be Cornboy and Jim, I think, going out probably with, I don't know if Gerard's going or not either.
No, I'm sure.
But basically, I know Cornboy's usually that guy. He's usually going out to the big conventions and stuff. But yeah, Eric, it's like I think they keep Eric back as like, hey, you're the guy coming up with the stuff. We do the other things to make this work. You need to stay home. Come out to Legion's Con. That's the best we got for you, you know? But, yeah.
Jesse Arnold did confirm that he is just attending, so you'll have to see him just around the floor. Snag a picture of that wild stallion and post it to our Legendati Facebook group, which you can find over on Facebook, and that's the place to go if you're a fan of this show, Shooting the Shelf, or Off-World.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's all Curtis likes to post photos of me and what I'm looking at on my computer. So there you go.
Yeah, we got to get back to that.
That was the dumbest thing I ever posted, but I did it anyway. It is what it is.
And we love you for it. All right. I guess we should. I got my dogs attacking behind me. They are fired. That's about the only downside to the kids not being home is I can't let them roam as free as they usually do while I'm recording. Normally they're at nap time, but they're fired up today. Okay. Somebody said this. Jesse believes that this piece is from Baron Voligar 2 originally, the neck piece.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Shawn knew that all along.
Yeah, I knew that all along. I was just waiting for Jesse to tell me.
us.
I knew it looked familiar, but the back piece, because I didn't get him, the back piece made me go, that looks a little bit different than the ones I've seen, but it makes sense because that figure is detailed to the 10s, not even the 9s, to the 10s.
And they actually have the collar piece. It's still got that tab that snaps into, behind the neck.
Yep.
But it's actually thicker now to where the neck peg actually sits over it and helps hold it in. Like I can't put it on without taking the neck peg out.
Yep.
Whereas I know some of the older ones, I'm sure this is old news to Mythic Legions fans, but I know some of the older ones, it's just a thin piece and you can just pull it on and off.
Mm-hmm.
And I did swap on it. I didn't swap the hands.
There you go.
I did swap out the bone head.
It actually works with the hands being that way, though. It looks like he's about to cast a spell.
Yeah, I mean, it works.
Or he's charging his power up or something, yeah.
Yeah, find a way to get some light behind there.
Give him a little LED stuff.
Yep, LSD. Yep.
LSD.
Woo! We'll all be tripping.
That's what McDonald's put in my coffee. That's why I can't talk.
And now it's all coming together. It's a great little figure. I still prefer the green head on this body, but I'm going to do it when we're done here. This head's going on my Malleus. I think it's really going to set him apart.
Yeah.
All right, that's our Mythic Legions hour. Ugh. I had a Rotan in there too.
This is why we had to do Off-World, because we knew eventually people would be like, "Talk Masters or we riot," But we have other things that we also enjoy and share. So there you go.
Demistros and
Yeah,
Rotan.
there you go. Demistros on the Rotan.
Woo!
Peanut butter and jelly. It's amazing.
He actually fits really well. He sits all the way down.
He does. That's awesome.
His hands are right by the controls. I'm sure with some finagling, I could actually have him grabbing them. Yeah,
I love it.
No,
he reminds me of a Skelcon almost in there because of those horns. Yeah,
I think that's why they put on the side there, like, this is not actually a tribute.
Because they knew you would have this and you would do this right now.
Well, I know there was lots of speculation. They're like, well, is this supposed to be Scareglow? Is this supposed to be another Skeletor?
Yeah.
Especially being with PowerCon. But yeah. And that's one thing I don't know if I mentioned on the show or not, but like with the newer Origins figures, they've made them, I think intentionally, where they fit Origins or they fit Masterverse. And with Masterverse being the same scale as Mythic Legions, it means most of your Mythic Legions will fit in there too. Like the Stridor is the same way. That's why I had Jesse customize that one that I've got with my Mythic Legions, because I think Mattel's definitely gone, well, we're not going to make Masterverse vehicles, but we can add it like an inch and make these Origins compatible with either. So
Yep.
It's a good time.
Makes sense.
All right. We do have a show for you. I promise. I got to take a picture of this guy first. He looks amazing. All right. We're gonna dig a bit into some nostalgia today. And we're not sure exactly where it's gonna go, so just buckle up with us. But I know I've been thinking a lot lately about the old VHS tapes and the memories associated with that. For me, I mean, that is where I saw Masters, was going to the mom and pop video shop. They had all the volumes, and that's where I got my He-Man fix. I was into He-Man at a time when it was not available on the television in my area. There was no cable in my area at the time, which is where it would have been. I know it was in reruns on USA Network for years, but like cable was not a thing for my family until the 90s. So it was well gone by then. So yeah, like the VHS, that is just so synonymous in my mind with He-Man. I mean, to where I mean, I've got the ad, the standee from the video store. I know there's a horrible glare on it right now, but you know that's one of my prized possessions. $24.95 Magic Window. Shawn, I know you don't have as much memory of the tapes themselves, but is there any that stand out to you?
I like as a kid, we got a VCR probably in 1987 or early 88. It was shortly after we moved to Pennsylvania. And I do remember there was a video store, you know, within 15, 20 minutes we'd go to, and they would have the boxes on the shelf, and I knew they had He-Man, the cartoons on there. But I was in this weird place of I would see that and I'm like, that's cool, He-Man's on video, that, you know, but I wouldn't rent them because I was living in a place where you could watch them at 3:00 in the afternoon after they had the power hour every afternoon. And so, you know, I saw a lot of them when I was in Baltimore growing up, and then they were still on probably until 88 or maybe even going into 89 on the channel that I could still watch. So I never rented them because they were on TV every afternoon. But to circle on to that though, in 96, I went back to that same video store, and that's where they had the previously viewed copies of these. And it was about 10 years since I actually watched He-Man. And I started looking and I'm like, there's 5 or 6 tapes of these on here. And I was shocked. And I want to say they might have been like $5.99 or something like that. And I ended up buying a couple of them because I had extra money from working a summer job. And I ended up getting probably 3 of them as I would find them. And that was like my reintroduction to, hey, remember you loved this? By the way, it's still fun even then, you know, even though you're a teenager and you think girls are awesome. There's still He-Man. You can come home to this. This is great, you know, so.
Yeah, you can like girls and He-Man.
Absolutely. And Teal approved that.
Yeah.
Especially Filmation Teal approved that with that jump she'd do every couple episodes.
So yeah, these tapes, like I had a few of them myself. But yeah, mostly I remember seeing them at the video store, and just the kind of the He-Man and the Masters of the Universe logo, which like you never saw anywhere back in the day. Like that was only the cartoon, the He-Man and the, you know, everything else was always just Masters of the Universe. And then just that artwork, you know, with usually like the villain of the episode or towering over them or whatever. Like, I love it. I remember when we moved out to Arizona after my parents separated, it was there was a local Blockbuster there that actually still had He-Man, which I'd had all the He-Man, either I had it or I had it recorded, because my family would always do that. Whenever we'd rent videos, we had 2 VCRs. They'd take the second VCR, they'd hook them up together, and we would record whatever we're watching. You know, come get us, FBI. It's been years, but. So I had like all He-Man, but they also had like the complete run of She-Ra too. So I'm like I only had, growing up, for She-Ra, I had Secret of the Sword. And then I had maybe 2 volumes recorded. So 4 episodes. And that was it for Filmation. That was all I'd ever seen. So I think to this day, like that's maybe why at times it seems like I appreciate She-Ra a little bit more, because as I'm getting back into it as a teenager, young adult, like I have more to consume there. You know what I mean? Like it's more the unknown. because I'd seen so little. But yeah, that was awesome finding those. Like anytime I would ever see these VHSs was always amazing to me. And we had a local one that ended up closing down that had a bunch of them. And I actually asked the guy at the time. They had the volume 1 of She-Ra, and this was like maybe 2001, might have even been like 99. And I remember because there weren't prices. The whole store was closing. So they were selling everything. So they didn't have anything priced. You had to take what you want and go up to the register, and then he'd give you a price. And I think he wanted like $50 per volume.
Oh, geez.
In like 2000, I'm like, really, man? He's like, well, they're. I remember the interaction to this day. He's like, well, they're rare. They're out of print. I'm like, all of this is out of print. Like, what do you? I'm like, all right. Like, well, that's not happening. You know, I'm teenager, first job. Like, that's, you know, I'm bringing home $100 a paycheck. Like, I can't.
Yep.
And I got to gas up the car, and you know, so.
I'm right there with you. I remember. Yep.
But yeah, that was disappointing. But that same store, when it was still open, it was a cool ass store too. They had like each section different. I wish I could remember the name of it. I tried so hard to remember, but I can't. It was if anyone's out in Tucson, Arizona, listening to this, and you remember this video store, you would know it, because in the kids section they had life-size Ninja Turtles with like a sewer grate, like mannequins, like 3D. There was like doors you went into to the horror section, and like it was made up to look like a haunted house exterior, and then you go through the doors, and I think it had like a Freddy or something life-size out. They had like all these life-size statues all around the store for the different genres and everything. Cool. It was a really cool store. And so I remember going there and finding He-Man tape that I hadn't seen before. So I rented that. And you know how most of those RCA Magic Windows, they had 2 episodes on it?
Yep.
And this one, if I recall correctly, it didn't have a volume number on it, which was really weird to me. Like, because it was volume 1, volume 2, you know, they all had numbers. And it was just called Island of Fear. And so I rented that, and it was like this magical tape, because it is the only tape out there. I want to say it had 5 episodes on it instead of the usual 2. But I'm putting it on just like expecting 2 episodes. So like Island of Fear was the first one, and then there was another one, and then like another one came on, and I'm like, and then another one came on. It was at least 4, because I know it was like to me and this was even younger. This was like I'm probably like 10, 11 at this time when we first started going to the store. So I'm sitting there like, this is a magical fucking VHS tape. Like, it's not. I'm like, it's just gonna keep going, and I'm just always gonna have more He-Man episodes. And
I'm picturing that Vince McMahon meme where it's like 1 episode of He-Man and he's smiling, 2 episodes and he's like, and then 3 and he's like, and it's like that's you watching it going all the way through the steps of like exhilaration, knowing this is what is going on. So
it was like, I'm just like, it kept going. I'm like, all right. Like it was magical for me at the time. Like, it's good time. And that's the kind of stuff. That's the kind of stuff that I miss, like, because, you know, it doesn't happen like that anymore.
No. Like, I know I don't have the same thing of the renting the cartoon like you did, but I know when the movie came out, the live action movie, like the minute that came out, my mom had to rent that for me because I just wanted to see it again. We saw it in the theater maybe 2 or 3 times that year. And then the next year when that came out on video, I ended up getting it, and I got to watch it a bunch at home. And I'm sure my dad was like, oh my God, shut that thing off. Even what we did, we didn't have the 2 VCRs, but I would usually have a tape recorder, And that meant for 2 hours, I needed everybody to shut the hell up, including my dog, because my dog sometimes would go crazy and bark out the door or whatever. So I had to have everybody be quiet, and I would tape these things, and then I would go later on and take out my toys, and I would have that be my sound effects or my theatrical score while I'm playing. And you can hear all these moments. And even when I was a kid, there was a summer where my mom was doing some, we at the elementary school I went to in Baltimore, it was called Armistead Gardens. It's not there anymore. They demolished it and then they rebuilt a upgraded version close by to where the first version was. But there was a summer where my mom was going in all summer and doing mural work. So they played He-Man around like 6 or 6:30 in the morning back then. And then they play it again at 3, and it would probably be 2 different episodes. So to get me out of the house, because I had to be with her, she would do the same thing. She'd tape record them, and then she'd bring it along with her, and she'd sit me down with the tape recorder, and I'd have at least the tub of my toys so that I could be entertained while she's in there doing all the craziness with the mural work for the rest of the afternoon. And I'd literally run through my elementary school and go down the hallways, and like this hallway is the one that goes to Snake Mountain, and I'd be playing like a Snake Mountain song, and He-Man and Skeletor would be fighting in the hallway and all that kind of stuff. So it's like, I don't have the connection to the video in the same way with He-Man, but I have the connection to when you were growing up in the 80s and you had things like the storybooks with the tapes or even the VHSs like you're talking about. There is that feeling of I need to hold on to this somehow, because it's like a blink and you miss it. We couldn't always record all the time, like it isn't like today. It's not like the streaming stuff. So if you could even tape record this stuff, it meant the world to have the songs and the score and the voices and stuff. So in that way, it's like any chance that you had to have to keep something that was going to be on, and it was a blink and you miss it moment in your childhood, it mattered a lot more. So like that tape recording I had of the Masters of the Universe live action movie, just hearing the build up to the part where Dolph's like swinging through the throne room to finally grab the power sword, and the musical build up, and you hear the crackling of the lightning all around him, but then you finally, I have the power. And as a kid, it didn't matter the context. The fact that he fucking said, I have the power finally, after all that, you're like, So yeah.
No, it's amazing, and it is just being able to hold on to it, and I remember even like my things $24.95 a VHS, like that's not cheap in today's money. Like I hate spending $20 on a DVD.
Yeah.
But like I even remember as a kid, like for rentals, even like some shows only gave you 1 episode on a VHS. So like I would rent those less, but I'm like, well, I can get a He-Man VHS. And that gives me 2 episodes. Or I could get, Power Rangers VHS, but that's only 1 episode. So like, you know what I mean? It's like you gotta get that bang for your buck. Let alone like there were the 2 I did want to throw out there. Greatest Adventures of All, that had 3 episodes on it. And then Skeletor's Revenge also had 3 episodes, but those were like those were like special ones. And Island of Fear, I'm guessing, had 4, but I really can't recall. And then, honestly, not a lot of information online about that. Like it seems to be one of the rare VHSs. So
you pretty much hit the Charlie Bucket lottery on that one. Just finding that, like, it just keeps playing. It's every filmation episode ever.
It's just going to keep going. And then finally it did end, and I'm like, but still, it's like, man, you're a kid, all this. Like, besides the couple of, like, He-Man VHSs have 2 episodes. So, like, I'm put this in, it's going to be 2 episodes. It was amazing, and just, like, If you can remember, what was more prominent in your area, because they had the Magic Window, which is actually owned. It was the children's division of RCA Columbia.
Mm-hmm.
But they actually released the VHSs in both. They had them in the clamshells, which were white with the Magic Window logo, but then they also had them in the slip cover with the red border, and that was RCA. For me, Magic Window, like I had Magic Window, I saw Magic Windows. I remember seeing a couple RCAs growing up, but not much. Do you recall what was more prominent in your area?
It was the RCA ones. Those were the ones that I was getting when they had the sale on them.
Gotcha.
I probably had at least, like I said, I want to say I had maybe 3 or 4 of them by the end of that summer. Because I'd let myself do one, because it was the whole, like, I'm putting a little bit of money towards something. And at that point, I had trained myself to not want to spend my money. I actually liked having money in the bank for, like, Lord knows I was smarter then. But so I was like, all right, I'll buy this one. And then after I watched that, I'm like, well, now I got to go back and get another one, because I forgot how much fun this was or whatever. I do think they had the Magic Window ones when the store, like, earlier in the store's history. I do remember those, but the RCA ones were the ones that I would see at least during their sale. So
right. Yeah, for me, it's just because I saw them more and I had them. Like, this is the Secret of the Sword that I had. With that He-Man, She-Ra logo, what we'd later come out to find out, that licensing image of He-Man. But, like, I get goosebumps just looking at these covers. Like,
the funny thing is, I had they had only 2 videos of it that I remember as a kid, but the real Ghostbusters, they did the Magic Windows for those, and I had both of those. There was what was it? The one was the one where it was I think it was called Doomsday. I know it was like the whole "Do not open till Doomsday," and the other one was "Play them ragtime booze," and I had both of them, and I would just watch them on repeat because they were episodes that they never aired on the actual show. Right. They were these weird, random, like, why was this never on Saturday mornings? And it was almost like you discovered a little treasure that, like, wow, nobody else saw this. I'm the one that apparently only saw the Doomsday episode. That's crazy. But yeah, I do remember the Magic Window. I remember the animation of them jumping through it and all that stuff at the beginning. But that was with Ghostbusters for me.
Yeah, see, and that's the thing. It's like, Magic Window, like, meant something. Like, if you were gonna...
There it is. Play them ragtime booze. That's that one.
Yep. And, like, I remember, like, I don't know if you were, but there's this old movie called Unico in the Land of Magic. Follows, like, a little unicorn and its adventures.
I've heard of it, but I've never seen it.
Like, I rented that because it was a Magic Window. Like, oh, that's Magic Window. They make the He-Man cartoon, so this should be good too. It's Magic Window and FHE, who had all the turtles.
The FHE, that one. If you saw the FHE logo come up and you didn't hear the Ninja Turtle song after that, you just eject that tape and throw it out the window, because that was like FHE. It was like that, or that opening shot of New York for the live action Turtle movie. It's like, but.
Oh, well, that's what New Line Cinema meant to be. You see that open in New Line Cinema with the film reels. If Turtles didn't kick on after that, I'm like, what are we doing here?
It's like, you're wasting my time. I should be watching Turtles instead of whatever this is right now. So here's a question for you, though, what was it that got you into He-Man initially? Was it that you were getting to see these the Magic Window tapes and just, like, by happenstance you came across He-Man, or was it the toys? Or I'm sure we went over it on our first episode, but, like, hearing it now, I'm like, well, what came first, the chicken or the egg for you here?
Honestly, so for our newer viewers or those who don't know, I was born in 1985, so. by the time I have any memories, like honestly, He-Man came first. Like He-Man was always there. From my earliest memories, I had a bunch of toys. We had cartoons taped already. So honestly, I'd have to say my mom. Like obviously, this is what. Unless I just picked it out, and unfortunately, can't ask her anymore. But like either way, at the end of the day, it's got to be my mom that I have to thank or curse for this He-Man obsession, because it always was. I always remember. I don't remember getting the actual clamshell cassettes. I had Secret of the Sword, Greatest Adventure of All, and the one with Colossor Awakes on it.
Yep.
Those were the 3 actual VHSs I had growing up, and they were always there. We always had them. I don't remember a time that we didn't have them. I don't remember a time actually getting them. So, and like I've said before, like I know a lot of my toys came from a friend of my mom's who her kids were growing up and she wanted to get rid of them and she gifted everything to me. That's how I got Snake Mountain. That's how I got the Fright Zone, a ton of figures. So I think it was probably just that kind of thing. We're like, I mean, I don't think we were ever like poor, but I definitely remember shopping at thrift shops and, secondhand and everything. If nothing else, my parents were obviously frugal. So
yeah.
I think it would just, honestly, I think me being younger than you guys actually helped in that regard to where like, a new turtle in the store, which I got as well from time to time, but not as often. Like a new turtle in the store was like $5-6, or dollar figures or 50-cent figures for He-Man at the thrift store. So I think it just kind of worked out in that regard to where like this was easily accessible. Obviously, it was popular. I do have an older sister, so like I think my mom just knew like this was the popular boy thing. And she got it for me. And so from the moment I can remember, I had my figures, I had cartoons, and it just expanded from there. And it interested me enough to where I stuck with it, over the years.
Interesting.
Yep. But yeah, definitely. I mean, I can't think of video stores without thinking of He-Man. Like that's I would look for that first before movies. Like, do they have any He-Man here? Like for years afterwards, and then like the random places you would find it. I remember, there was this gas station, on the way to visit my grandparents. We'd always stop. My mom, whenever we traveled somewhere that we traveled regularly, she'd always have like, we stop here, and we stop here, And there was this gas station that we always stopped to, and they had a wall of VHS tapes. And they had one He-Man one that I always looked at while I was waiting for the rest of the family to get done using the bathroom. It was the one with He-Man and Tila and the big snake behind them.
Oh, I remember that one.
Yeah. Like it sticks in my head to this day.
Yeah.
Like, and I would always just pull it down, look at the back, and like, like we're not gonna rent videos here because we're on our way, but like, when we moved out to Arizona, there was a Fry's grocery store that for a while had the same thing. Like there was a corner up front by the register. It was like a wall here and a wall here of VHS rentals. You could actually rent from the grocery store. And that they had Skeletor's Revenge. I never got my mom to rent it from there because she's like, we don't rent movies from the grocery store. So I never actually watched it as a kid, but that's the one with He-Man fighting Webstor on the cover of it. And of course I read the back and I'm like, it's got 3 episodes, because that was basically Greatest Adventures of All was like the season 1 like kickoff, and Skeletor's Revenge was the season 2 kickoff. So it had 3 episodes from season 2. So there were ones I think that I'd seen Webstor in Secret of the Sword. He's in there. But like, I'm like, this is an actual like Webstor episode because he's on the cover. Like, and I never got to see that until DVD. So
I have this weird thing where if I watch something and it's a certain time of day when I know I'm supposed to watch it, because He-Man, when I was a kid, that was the show that started off the afternoon block of cartoons down in
Right.
Baltimore, like Channel 45. It was the first one. So like I was running home like a madman to get home from kindergarten the first day that it aired to just sit in front of that TV and not miss a single moment of the show. And as I got older, because of that conditioning, even when we moved up here, He-Man, if I remember right, He-Man was one of the first cartoons of the afternoon. So sometimes I'd like see a bit of it when I get home from school, but I might miss the intro or whatever. And I had this weird thing about it that if I wasn't watching it when I'm supposed to watch it, it felt really alien to watch it. And it was literally a psychological way of like I was programmed 3 o'clock. It's like 4 o'clock Judge Wapner kind of thing. You know, it's like 3 o'clock He-Man. Then after that, I don't remember what show was on after that. Typically,
we got to get to the
different.
We got to get to the early bird special at Ponderosa, so we do our He-Man now. Then we get the early bird. Then the news.
But that was like the weird, like you watching the videos, it would have messed with my head at that age to like all of a sudden, hey, we can watch this not at 3 o'clock, we can watch it whenever, and I'd have been like, no, you watch that at 3 o'clock. Like even today, there's certain like commercials that if I start my day listening to, like if I'm watching YouTube and I'm at the beginning of my day starting working, and the next thing I hear is like a certain jingle, if I hear that later that night while I'm trying to do something, I'm like, that was a morning thing. We aren't listening to that now. It's evening. I need to listen to stuff that's getting me, like going so I can have that third wind. So it's like, it's this weird thing. But the other thing that you said is, we don't rent the videos from the grocery store.
Yeah.
What's funny is and for anybody who's watching that was not born in the 80s or born in the 70s and you weren't in the whole birth of the video cassette tape and the video whatever it is, the video explosion of the 80s and 90s where you could actually take these things home and watch them. When we moved up here, or maybe it was before we moved up here, but there was a weekend where my parents said, okay, we got to stop and get groceries. And there was this one grocery store we'd stop at. And then they're like, they rent video players.
Yeah.
So we're going to rent the video player and we're going to pick 2 movies out. So then Shawn actually has something to keep him occupied other than just playing with toys. And that was like something that was like Christmas to me, because we rented the video, the VCR, and then my parents let me get Back to the Future and Ghostbusters. So I got to see 2 of the biggest blockbuster movies in the same like 24 to 48 hours and just sit there mesmerized by these movies and being so happy I was a kid of the 80s that I was in on this at almost the ground floor. But yeah, like it's still to this day is like, man, I remember how it was like the greatest treat in the world to go, oh my God, I can actually rent a movie, but I have to rent the the VCR to get the tape and all this stuff. But it was a hell of a fun time to be able to say, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it at the head. A lot of, I mean, even I don't remember those days necessarily. Like, we always had VCRs, but like in the beginning, a lot of people didn't own VCRs. So the video store would actually rent you the VCR as well. It's like, okay, so you rent the VCR, you rent the tapes, and then you can go home. Comes in a big briefcase, like you take it out. Like, I remember the treat that we got because we did not have consoles, video game consoles growing up. Well, not till middle school was when I first got my first one. That was actually me saving up for it myself. And that was the 64. But I remember we would play at friends' house and stuff. And I remember one weekend, don't remember why or whatever, just like a special treat, but same thing. Our local video store would rent consoles. So we rented Super Nintendo with a couple games. And like that was like an amazing weekend. I was like, oh my God, we get to actually sit at our house and play these games. And yeah, we got to return them on Monday, but how many of our listeners do you think? You think we got the young crowd that doesn't have a clue what we're talking about right now? Like,
I don't know. I'd say maybe it's a 50-50 shot on some of this because I'm sure there's more like, mid 30s, early 40s probably than anybody else. But I mean, there have been other people who have said like 2000X was their He-Man, so we do have that as well. But
so it's, I mean, just thinking about my own kids. So I have 4 kids. I would say I think only one of them has actually rented the DVDs from a video store. I don't think by the time my other 3 kids came along, we'd Redbox, or we'd stream. So there was really, the last we had Family Video here locally. They were the last ones to close up, but even that's been a couple years now since they went belly up. And we'd stopped going long before that. But back in the day, that was it. Like it was, you knew it was going to be a good Friday night. Mom would take you to the video store. You get to pick out your own video. 'Cause sometimes you had to go and like the whole family had to agree on something. But then once in a while, it'd be like each kid got to pick out a video. Those were the good nights. Dad would bring home a stuffed crust pizza from Pizza Hut. Like,
no, those I completely agree. Like now there is no excitement. Like even yesterday, for instance, I've been waiting to find out when Across the Spider-Verse was going to finally hit digital.
Yeah, I saw this.
It finally came out yesterday. Yep. I was like, oh, today is the day finally. But I would have been insane if I went to a movie, if I went to a video store. There it was. I would have been like jumping for it, grabbing whatever copy I could, and running for the counter. And instead, I'm like, I just pushed a couple of buttons and boom, I have it. Yep. And it's like, I'm excited because my wife wanted to see it. She hasn't seen it yet. So this weekend, we're going to watch it. But it's like Friday nights or Saturday nights when you were a kid, the minute that one of your parents was like, well, why don't we just rent a movie tonight? Let's do something and see something we haven't seen before or whatever. And that was just like the greatest feeling alive. Like you didn't even have to go to the theater, but you're able to see something like my mom, for instance, when I was a kid, my dad went out to California for like a month because his brother passed away. So he's out there, seeing his brothers, his surviving brothers and all this stuff and spending time with family. While he was gone, my mom kept going to the video store and getting every movie that she hadn't seen in the last 5 years that she wanted to see. And I got to see all these movies for the first time with her. And I'm like, holy crap, this is kind of awesome. Because it was obviously before streaming. So it was like more special. You're investing the money per movie to sit there and finally get to see this. And, sometimes it was a great spend of money. Sometimes you're just there like, well, thank God I got to take that back because I don't want it in my house anymore. Stick it up whatever.
You still finished it, though. Like, I paid the $4.95. We're watching this to the end.
The only movie that did not survive that, if I remember right, was Conan the Barbarian because I know you haven't seen it, but my mom... I remember this to this day. My mom looked at that video box and she was all over the place, turning it all around everywhere. And she could not see what the rating of the movie was on there. And me being 9 years old, 10 years old, wanting to watch this, she finally gave in because she's like, all right, it probably isn't that big of a deal. And then literally, like, I think it was 15 minutes into the movie,
click.
I never saw my mom react to anything as quickly as that. She's not a very big woman. She's this little petite thing, and she lunged at the plane. Hit stop, hit rewind, pulled it out of there, and she's like, "It's going back tomorrow." And all I kept thinking was, I wonder if I could see this at night while they're asleep and not let them know that I watched
Right.
it. I never got around to it, but every other movie though was watched because there was that feeling of you're spending the money. Let's finish it, even if it wasn't a great movie.
And
So,
this is it for the week or 2 weeks or whenever we go back. Like,
yep, exactly.
You had to rewind. My kids don't even know what rewinding is. Like,
yeah,
just you stop the movie, you're done. Like,
or late fees.
Late fees, yep. I tell you what, though, and for those of you who don't know, I'm assuming there's some of you out there. So, all my local stores were set up like this. I'm sure yours were. So, like, you had the movies like in the center on the shelves, and those were the old movies. Those are the ones you could rent for like 5 days for like $1, you know, which is great. You know, I definitely, especially getting older, when I could drive myself, like that was a big thing, right? You turn 16, get your license. One of the first things we all did was go get our own Blockbuster card. They didn't care about you being 18 or anything. 16. If you got a license, you could get a Blockbuster card. You get your own, and then I can go get my own movies. And that's when I started digging through the back catalog, those dollar movies really hard. But usually what you went for was the perimeter wall, because that had all your new releases on it. But here's the thing. Not like streaming, can't just click a button, right? There's only so many copies. If they got 20 copies of Jurassic Park, there's 20 copies of Jurassic Park. And so my local ones, they were set up where they had the actual clamshell or, you know, the slipcase, like the actual tape package in front. And then behind it was the actual tape in a separate case. And so you take the tape and you'd leave the cover.
Yep.
And then you take the tape up to a register and check it out. There is no worse feeling than going to that wall and seeing all of those covers sitting flat.
Yep.
Against the wall. No. You're looking behind. You're checking the ones next to it. No.
Yeah. I remember.
I've been waiting because we tracked it. Jurassic Park's coming out. It's this Friday, Mom. Mom, Friday. It's coming out this week. Mm-hmm. You know, we didn't just go in like we knew when this stuff was hidden. You know. But yeah, that's the worst feeling, walking up and just seeing all those tapes flat.
Mm-hmm. No,
ask up at the counter. Maybe someone just turned one in.
Yeah, I've done that tons of times.
Oh, I did it. Absolutely. Hey, do you got this?
And it's like when the return drop, it's like while you're in the store, if it's not there, you hear somebody put it in the return, and all of a sudden you run up to the counter, you're like, hey, would it happen to be that title or whatever? It's like, well, this one's got to go back behind the beaded entryway. Oh, it's that movie. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
It's like I don't know if I want to touch that right after he dropped it. Okay. But no, like when I was I wasn't old enough to drive yet. Yeah. But I to this day I remember the movie that I was like that the most with was The Crow. Yeah. That one hit at a point in my life where I saw it in the theater probably 4 or 5 times that summer. And like it's one of those movies now I honestly don't want to ever watch it again. And it's not that I hate the movie. I just burnt myself out on that movie in the span of maybe 3 years of my life in my teenage years. Mm-hmm. So but that was one where I remember they would show, okay, The Crow is now going to be released on this date. And I was calling the store and I was like, I want a copy reserved so I don't even have to worry about walking in there and seeing that problem of, everybody rented it all. And they only had maybe like 5 or 6 copies. Yeah. Because it was an independent movie. It wasn't like, you know, Jurassic Park would have probably had 20 copies on this show. The Crow had maybe 5, 6. And then after a certain point, they even weeded it down to maybe like 3 or 2 of them. Mm-hmm. Yep. So there was this like, I needed to have that copy. And the one thing about it that to this day, like between that, Transformers the movie, and some of the other ones, there was something magical about you could take these home and actually pause these and study shots that when you were watching it in the theater, if you were lucky enough to see these movies in the theater, you might have just been taking it all in, and then you're seeing all these things that you didn't pick up on the first time. Like nowadays on YouTube, you have so many of these. Here's what the 300 Easter eggs in the Spider-Verse movie were.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, can you imagine going to the theater and seeing that and waiting a year for a VHS to come out and get to finally, like, you would have driven yourself crazy going, I know I saw a horse that was a Spider-Man horse. And people are like, yeah, sure you did. You know, and then all of a sudden a year later, I told you he was in there. And like as a kid, like I did that with The Crow, where it's like I remembered it certain ways in the theater, and then I'm watching it again going like, oh, that was like a quick cut here, and look at that angle of that shot and this and that and the details. And it's like it made you, if you love these movies, it made you appreciate so much more that release. It made you appreciate getting to take that home and taking the time with it, compared to when you're going to a movie, you have, you know, the time you're sitting there plus any distractions that are driving you crazy to take you out of the movie. And so at least in your home, you're getting that time to really put in the quality time to watch these things.
Oh yeah.
Or just relive the memory of watching it. Like when I saw Transformers the movie at home on VHS, I was like literally poring over that movie and going, I remember how it felt to sit there on Saturday morning when my mom took me to the theater. But it's like, you know, reliving it all over again, just like we do with this podcast talking about He-Man. Like we're going back to the roots of our memories for something we loved. And it's like that helped with how this all worked out. Those VHSs, those eventually DVDs and everything, just confirming and affirming that love.
Yeah.
You know? So.
Well, that's the thing. Like you touched on a second ago. Like the anticipation, because it was generally at least a year, like after it leaves theaters. So you get some of these movies that would keep going, and that was the other thing back in the day. Like nowadays, you know, you got probably a month in theaters, and then you're done regardless.
Yep.
Back in the day, like it kept going. If that movie was still making money, it would stay in the theaters. There was no predetermined end date. Eventually, it would fall off, and then they'd be like, "All right, pull it," and then it would go to the discount theaters.
Yep.
You know, the dollar theaters for a while, and then they'd start making the VHSs and shipping them out. So, like, you could be a year or so. And if you didn't get to see it in the theaters and you had to wait for the VHS, like, I mean, there are movies that have been out for a year and a half where you're like, I really want to see that, but you got to wait until it comes out. It's not like now where it's like that premieres in the theater in July, August 9th, it's on, you know, streaming service. Click of your button.
Yep.
I'm like, nope. To your point, I remember, so with VHS, when you paused it, there was actually lines on the screen, like fuzzy lines.
The tracking lines.
The tracking lines.
Yep.
So, and they kind of be at random. So if you were trying to like pinpoint something in a scene that you wanted to see, sometimes you'd pause it, but the tracking line would be right over, like if you wanted to read a note, like, does that really say, or what does this say? You know, like nowadays you just take your DVD and you zoom in and you're like, oh, it says that. But back then it'd be like, pause. Oh, shoot, the tracking line's right there. Rewind, pause. Oh, nope. Let me try. Like, it was an art form that, like, come on, pause in the right way, you know?
Absolutely.
You pause at the nude scene and the tracking line's right there, and you're like, damn it.
It's like, come on, Cinemax isn't this bad. I mean, like something else real quick, even before the VHS, there was one thing that blew my mind even as a kid, and it has to do with He-Man, so we can tie it back to what we're talking about in that way. The other thing that they did that made it really special was before VHS, there was the Panini sticker book. Yeah, and that one covered the Colossal Awakes, if I remember right, and it also did Diamond Ray of Disappearance in it.
Yeah, and it did I can't think of, like Father Like Daughter. It was all 3 episodes that were on The Greatest Adventures of All.
But what I loved about that when I was a kid was like these images are right there on the screen every day. But then when you got those stickers, you could see the brush strokes in the inking or whatever and all that stuff. And as a kid, for being, for me wanting to do art and being attracted to more artistic things, it's like we're talking about pausing things. Well, it's like, what better pause was there than here's a sticker that was the cell of the actual episode that you just watched that afternoon, and you could put it into a book, and there it is that you can go back to it over and over again, just like taking a pause shot of one of those episodes or a movie or whatever.
Yeah, see, and I never knew about this sticker albums until the internet, but yeah, so they actually had scenes from the show, and then you put them in the book and like complete the episode. Like it would actually have like everything by the end. I would have loved this as a kid, especially being the Filmation guy. Like I'd be all over this.
I ate it up, and I want to say I don't have it anymore. I don't know whatever happened to it, unfortunately. But I got those, and I remember like I would get a couple packs from time to time.
Yep.
And then if I ended up not being able to complete a shot, and it was they had like 2 pieces to make some of those images.
Yep.
If they were like a bigger part of the episode or whatever, and I would go flip through it, and it would drive me up the wall if I saw here's He-Man about to get thrown out of the vehicle, and you need that shot of Skeletor where he's about to kick him, or whatever, and I'm just He-Man on the one side and knowing there's like another piece out there. Where's this other piece? It would drive me crazy.
Yeah, I know those are fun. I remember the same thing. It was afterwards, but like the Ladybird book for Secret of the Sword actually used images from the cartoon. Normally, Ladybird like had their own illustrations, but for that book, they actually took screen grabs basically of the animation and put them in there with the text. And I'm like, even find that as an adult, I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. Like as a kid, same thing. I would have loved this because it would have been a clear way to see like every little frame,
Well, even the storybook to that one, I had that when I was a kid, and I want to say they did that too, where it wasn't they had like one shot to represent whatever they were talking about. He just walked away from me.
You're good. I'm listening.
But yeah, like I remember that because it was the record book, if I remember right, and that one did the same deal. And as a kid, I would do the same thing with that as well.
Yeah, my cat was stuck in a room apparently and scratching me out.
Love cats. But yeah, getting back to the VHSs and stuff, because I know I sidetracked.
Well, it's all the same thing, right? We're just trying to hold on to that thing that we can only watch once in a while. You're every weekday after school, or even me with the VHSs. Like I can't, especially back in the day. Like we had 2 TVs, but it was like one was the living room and one was my parents' room, and so it's like I didn't just have free reign to, hey, I want to watch He-Man now. Oh, well, I'll just pull out my phone and watch it on that. No, like I had to, if nobody was watching it, if we had nothing going on, if company wasn't over, like if my parents had somebody over, like, hey, go, we're sitting here talking, like whatever, it was that the family, and I know you had Les, but you didn't have any siblings to vie with either. Like, so if I I want to watch He-Man, well, Heather wants to watch this, so she wins because she's older. Like there's that whole thing.
The one day of watching cartoons that I think even I knew I was a very lucky child was my parents got a new TV, so they put the old TV in my room because it also
look at Mr. Only Child here.
Well, no, here's the thing. The reason they let me have the TV in my room was we did have an Atari, and they let me play that because I had to wear an eye patch. and that was something that was supposed to help my eye to get stronger if I was playing those and doing the hand-eye coordination stuff. But there was this one afternoon where, okay, we had an addition to the house that was my room, but there was a window that my dad never filled in. So there was this window that you could see into my bedroom, and you could see if I was watching the TV, but you could also see the living room TV. And that afternoon, I had the window open for some reason, which barely ever happened, and I was watching Silverhawks.
Mm-hmm.
Not to get into all the Super 7 garbage, but just I was watching Silverhawks. And it was the moment when Monstar started doing his incantation to become Monstar.
Yeah.
And it was in stereo. And I was literally in the middle of how it played out. So I could see it in my room and I could see it there. And it was like, here is this incantation to turn this bad guy into a worse bad guy. And it's all bathed in red and all this stuff. And I remember sitting there going, I don't know if I'm going to actually bring him out of hell. It was like the weirdest, freakiest moment of me just looking around going, I think this is too much for one 6-year-old to handle on his own. Like, there's too much of like, oh my God, this is insane. Like, even you as a kid, you've gone too far.
Right. That sounds amazing. I remember when we had... fuzzy memory, but something about early cable, and like I don't know if my dad just like he probably like split off or whatever, but like so we had cable in 2 different rooms, but you had to watch the same thing. Like it was controlled by the one box.
Yeah,
like
okay.
So it's like cable ran to the second room, but it was controlled from the first room. So you could turn on your TV and watch whatever the person in the living room was watching, but you couldn't actually, you couldn't change it independently, like with that early cable.
That would have made me laugh just hearing the voice from the other room go, "Hey, I'm gonna watch such and such. Nobody touch a damn thing."
That was it. I mean, it's right up there with tangenting away today, but like it's right up there with, hey, I'm going to get online. No one answer the phone.
Yeah, I remember that. Yep.
Oh, my mom gets so mad because she calls after school and I wouldn't answer. And she's like, why didn't you answer? Well, I was trying to download music and it takes 30 hours.
Well, at least you were downloading music. I was probably downloading something. I was older than you. Don't forget.
Music. Oh, I chose music very intentionally there.
So that's who this Jenny McCarthy lady is. Oh, that's nice.
Oh, God, the pictures would even.
Are going for a walk.
And my son interrupt. Fine, but be back soon.
You will.
Okay. Be careful.
They God, it was a magical time.
It was. I mean. I have this weird thing where, like, yes, when I was a kid, it was magical for certain things. And then in the early 2000s, like, I was going through a really bad breakup with my girlfriend at the time. So I focused so hard on that now when I look back on that, I'm like, the amount of crap you missed because you were such a sad sack makes me want to throw up some days, because I genuinely would have rather been driving around to Toys R Us's to find 2000X toys than sitting around worrying about a girl that will never, ever cross your doorstep for the rest of the 20-some years you're looking back on this thing. Really? This is what you were sad about? You could have been, like, collecting all these things and actually going, hey, childhood is a great place to go back to be happy for these things, and they could still make you happy even years later. So adulthood and all that garbage kicked in, and it's like, oh, it's all doom and gloom. But then it's like, yeah, but pre-orders, we love the pre-orders and stuff. So
it's actually funny because, I mean, looking back, I got nothing but love for it and simpler time and all that. But like at the same time, if I had to do it that way today, I'd probably be bitching and moaning about it. You know, like if I had to wait. All right, well, Spider-Verse just came out. All right, in a year, we'll be able to go to a store, hope they have a copy left, and rent it for 2 days, and then get it back on time. Like, you know, I definitely appreciate the modern era, but I love looking back, and it's just a memory. It's a nostalgia. That's what brings us back.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, how many times, if you think about it, like, I mean, the cool part about it was you could go and rent stuff, and there was a pretty good chance, even before you were old enough to go and get a card yourself, you might be able to get a movie that maybe you couldn't go to the theater to see, and your parents were like, because like I remember the first rated R movie I got to see at home without my parents finally arguing with me about it was Terminator 2.
Yeah.
There was, I don't know what, I think it was probably all of the hubbub about it because it was like one of the biggest movies of that year. And it was like the next year when it came out on video, it hit around where my birthday was. So I rented that as part of my birthday celebration and had a couple buddies over and we all watched Terminator 2. And it was like, that was like your rite of passage kind of moments where you were old enough to finally go, hey, my mom and dad think I'm ready that I can watch like Terminator 2 or Point Break or, you know, what True Lies or whatever the movie was that was like the big movie, but it was more rated R than PG-13 or PG, whatever.
Well, that's one area where being an only child failed you. Because when you got 4 kids running around a video store, like my mom rarely even checked, you know, all right, you got your movie? Yep, I got my movie. All right, let's go. Like, okay.
Yeah, you were lucky.
And then you're like, you're just hoping that the cashier, so then you give them all to your mom, and so you're hoping the cashier doesn't go like, oh, ma'am, this is rated R. Like, but, and that's where the, like I said, because she didn't follow us around. It was kind of like, hey, go. I mean, the video stores were never very big. I mean, you could easily let your kid run. So she let us go pick out our movies. And so that's where that helped you, where you're just coming back with that clear clamshell and just a VHS with a label in there. Like, so, you know, you're like, yeah, here. Yeah, don't read that. Don't read that title. Don't read that. Okay.
Yep.
We're good. All right. Or she might glance at it, but she didn't recognize it or whatever. Like, there was definitely some movies like that where I'm just like, all right. Like,
this is Dooch.
And
he's still holding the copy of Mona Lisa's Smile or whatever. It's like,
I know I've got a couple Blockbuster VHSs like in the Blockbuster clamshell somewhere around here. I can't remember where they are, but I remember when we unpacked in the house, I remember coming across them, and I'm like, I must have just never returned these because even when they sold you the pre-owned ones, they never came with that Blockbuster slipcover. Even if they didn't have the even if they didn't have the actual case for it, they would sell it in just a regular blank case. But I have ones with the actual Blockbuster paper insert. Oh, remember that when VHSs started doing like the reversible inserts? Because you could, I want to say like Indian in the Cupboard had one where like it had, because you remember on the clamshells, right? You could open it up and you could actually slide that paper out.
Yeah. Yep.
And some of them had like reversible ones where you could turn it around. And like I remember Indian in the Cupboard, like we would have the regular one where it had like the poster on front and then the description on back. But then if you flipped it around, it would just look like the cupboard, you know, like that kind of thing. Or you could have even taken them out and like pretended a movie was something else if you wanted to. But
I think I did that once or twice.
Yeah. But yeah, just crazy things. God, it's good times. Good times.
Yeah, good. I mean, there's a magic. Like everything got, and now I'm going to sound like an old man. Yep. Everything got more corporate, and everything got more get it out there faster, and it became almost disposable. Whereas when we were kids, even though to our parents this stuff was probably like, you know, in my dad's case, he was, it's a waste of time. Why does he love all this stuff? but it felt like this was all something building towards this is making me who I am in whatever way, one way or the other. And it felt like there was more substance to these things. Right. And then like when you started seeing, oh, now here's a sequel, and then the sequel doesn't like, I to this day, the one I went to The Crow early. Well, like The Crow, the first one, obviously Brandon Lee died. So then they're like, well, now we have to make a sequel because that would need all the money. And then it's like, oh, so you're just going to keep doing this and pissing people off. And it's because they're still, they're milking it for all it's worth. So it's like, there's that weird teetering of time where it's like, okay, these things actually held up and they were substantial. But then there's a Terminator 3 for every Terminator 2 or a Crow City of Angels for every Crow that's out there. And it's like, wow. So this is what we're doing. And then it became disposable in that way too, versus having a little more weight like when we were kids in some ways. So
I think it just like we've even said about the toys too. Like it's kind of the same thing. Like now I can jump on Amazon or Big Bad Toy Store and get any toy I want for the most part. Yeah. So like it's not as special as chasing in the store. Same thing with the movies and the cartoons. Like we said, it was if you could convince your parents to rent it, or like I said, those actual VHSs I had, those were like gold. Like you didn't get a lot of those. Absolutely. Nowadays you can stream entire series whenever you want. So it's like, and for that matter, I didn't really think about it until you kind of mentioned your dad. And my dad is the same way. Like he's the type of guy, with a few exceptions, is like, hey Dad, you want to watch this movie again? I saw that. Yeah, you want to watch it again? Why would I want to watch it again? I saw that already. But like, for them growing up, and maybe guys our age don't know this, like movies came out in theaters and then that was it. Yeah. At best, like some of the top movies, a company might re-release them like 5 or 10 years down the road. Yep. Disney was famous for that for Snow White. I mean, that wasn't available on VHS until the 90s. And I remember when it came out, that was like a big deal because Disney would just like, every so many years, they put Snow White back into theaters. And it's like, okay, this is our chance to watch it again. Yep. And that was the way the model worked up until the advent of the video store and VHSs and everything else, was you would release a movie, it would make its money, and if it made enough money, years down the road, you might be able to purchase another theater ticket to go see it again. Maybe. Or it's just gone. And so that's the way they grew up. That's the way they were raised. And I think that definitely shows, we're kind of the sides of the divide there, our parents' generation and then ours. Especially your dad. I know he's a little older even than most of the rest of our parents. So probably even more so. But like, I think that's a big split. And then of course our kids nowadays who can see anything, anytime, anywhere. Yeah. Like it's so easy to where they probably won't have the nostalgia that we do because it doesn't go away. It's there and you can keep consuming, and it's definitely a lot faster paced. And I mean, sequels back in the day, I mean, you could be talking 5 years because it's like, okay, the movie came out, it did well. Let's see what the VHS does when we release it another year. Okay, that did well. So now let's start talking about making a movie like 3 years before it's even, okay, now we'll start filming. So it's just a whole different world. To the point where when video stores were starting to become a thing, Disney and some of the other major studios actually tried to shut them down. They took these early video stores to court and tried to get the government to step in and ban them because they were afraid it would kill the theaters. They thought if people could get these movies on VHS, they wouldn't go to the theater anymore.
Well, that was the TV thing in the 50s. Yeah. And movie theaters had the same uphill battle because now people are able to sit in their homes and enjoy watching a show versus going to the theater. And it's like, again, there's this movie theater experience and
Yep.
making sure that what you're putting in there actually matches up to somebody wanting to go see it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And like I remember the one they would take forever even when we were kids to put certain movies even out, and
Yep.
then it became like the one that I remember the most was E.T. That was one of the first movies I ever saw in the theater. My mom took me when I was probably 3 or 4 at the most, and we saw that movie. She took me to go see it probably 2 or 3 times because for her it was like amazing to see a movie with knowing she's a mom and can take me finally. I'm sure that had to be part of it.
Right.
She missed out on how many movies when I was first born, but the VHS for that didn't hit until probably 89. And that was 7 years later. I think E.T. was 82, if I remember right.
80 June of 82, it was released in theaters. In October of 88, it became out on VHS.
And that was a big deal. And I remember my mom actually like putting she did a pre-order for that one.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot about pre-orders.
We did the pre-order, and
my God.
we actually there were like 3 or 4 other families within walking distance of us that had kids that never saw this. So then my mom actually did an invite party thing, so they could come to our house and we could watch E.T. finally because they never got to see it. And then afterwards, we all rode bikes around the woods like we were playing E.T. And it was the biggest deal for my mom to finally have this movie after all these years.
Yeah, and it's funny because obviously I don't remember E.T. coming out of theaters, but I remember vaguely like E.T. coming to home video, and that was like that's one my mom got like right away, like because that was, I mean, imagine that, because that's like E.T. was not like a box office bust. Like it made all the monies right away. It wasn't a sleeper hit, a cult class. No, it made all the money in 82.
Yep.
So nowadays, imagine Avengers came out.
Yeah.
And set all these records, and they're like, well, we're not going to release that in home video for 6 years.
Yeah.
Like, what? You kidding? Like, oh my God. Yeah, it was a whole different. Not every movie got a release back in the day. Even once VHSs were a thing, there were still movies that were such duds that they're like, yeah, we're not going to release that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, it was up to the studio if they wanted to or not. Now it's a foregone conclusion.
Yeah, they'll try to make money back on it somehow, one way or the other now.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it was a whole different world. You never knew. You could never trust. I mean, you'd have those reports that like, oh, such and such movie's coming out this day or that date, but sometimes those weren't true. Like I'm trying to track that stuff was crazy. I remember. Excuse me. Or even re-releasing movies like that did not happen. Like nowadays. Shoot, Walmart, they'll crank out like they'll have the regular DVD, then they'll have like a glow in the dark slipcover, then they'll have like an artist proof slipcover, like for the same movie. Like that never happened. Usually a movie would, theater, VHS. Sorry about your luck. Mm-hmm. I remember being amazed in the mid 90s when I found the Dolph Lundgren, Frank Langella classic Masters of the Universe, the live action movie, finding that like a re-release at Walmart, Warner Brothers did like a re-release, a VHS. And like, that was amazing. I'm like, oh, it's there. Cause that's one, like I had it recorded off TV, but I never had any hope of actually getting it. And then they re-released it on VHS. I'm like, oh my God, it's a huge thing. And I bought that.
Yep.
And then when the DVD was becoming a thing, that's when and we had the internet. Like me and my friends would really track that stuff, and like we found that Masters of the Universe was supposed to be released on DVD, but like none of my friend group they're like, no, it's not really going to be released on DVD or anything. And I'm like, I'm gonna check, and we went. I think it was Fridays was it Fridays for new movies? Or no, Fridays were theaters.
Fridays were theaters. Tuesdays or Wednesdays was new movies, if I remember right.
Yeah, it was one of those days.
They released it yesterday for Spider-Verse, and that's usually when the new stuff hits. And I want to say they've kept that from like back when the DVDs even came out and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, there was one day. I think you're right. I think it's Tuesdays now that I'm thinking about it. Yeah, Tuesdays were new release day. That's when they weren't out before that. Like every Tuesday, that's when they stocked the new stuff. I remember going to actually Barnes and Noble booksellers in the mall, and they had the Masters of the Universe DVD, and I grabbed that right away. No extra features, no nothing. It was still when the DVDs came with like the cardboard cover with like the snap.
Yep, I remember those.
Yeah, but I bought that shit up. I'm like, I'm never gonna see this again. Like that was the thing. It was like, if I don't get this, I'm not gonna see it again. You know, streaming was unheard of. All that, like, you had to get it when you could.
Absolutely. I mean, the same summer that I was buying those the Filmation VHSs was also the same summer when I went to Walmart, and right there at the checkout counter, there was the live action movie for like, I want to say $8 or $7 or something. And I was like, I've never owned it. I've rented it how many times? I had it on tape recorder, cassette tape and everything. I'm like, I finally need to buy this thing. And I bought it. And that was like part of my He-Man rediscovery period in 96. And it helped leading into the 2000X line even, because that was very much like, it's still home, it's still here. But yeah.
Dogs, give me room. There it is.
Nice.
The Masters of the Universe DVD that I bought from Barnes & Noble in the mall. I'm bigging myself a little bit so everyone can get. Yep, see, so it's got the snap.
Yep.
And like a cardboard cover.
Yep, I remember that.
Didn't even come with the insert. There's the chapter list.
Remember the chapter list too? Yeah, I remember that even.
Yep. This was amazing. This was top of the line here.
Yep.
Special features. Actually, this does have a commentary. I'd forgotten about that. I got to watch that again.
Who did the commentary? Gary Goddard, I'm guessing?
Gary Goddard, yep. Character profiles, interactive menus. Like, that's in the early DVD, just having the menu on the screen was like, if it played a song or something, that was amazing. Theatrical trailer and scene access. Like, that's how early this was. Like, the fact that you can select the scenes was a special feature.
Well, I mean, the thing about that was mind-blowing. I mean, how many times did you fast forward and rewind to get to a part you loved, and all of a sudden now all you do is just click a button and boom, there's that scene that you wanted so long. And I mean, that was the beginning. I mean, the VHSs and stuff were the beginning of it, really, but the DVDs giving you that option were really the beginning of where we are now, where it's so easy to access all these things 24/7 the way that we're accustomed to. And I agree, like you saying about how, this stuff isn't going to stick and have the nostalgia for the next generation the way it did for us. Yeah, there's a huge, like, my son was rattling off every single TV show that he loves.
Yep.
He was going for 5 to 10 minutes last night on all of these shows, and I'm like, I didn't realize you were watching half of these things.
Yeah.
And it's like, for me, when I find out, there's going to be a new season of this coming out, it's special, and I'm like, I can't wait. And then that day comes and we take time to watch it. But for them, it's like, it's really and truly not nearly as exciting as it is for me. Like back in those days when something new would hit, and boom, I'm able to watch it right then.
Yep.
So I can see that already, that change, and it does make me a little sad because it feels so much more disposable and consume in that bad way versus what we had when we were kids.
Well, just to have that nostalgia, you've got to lose it first. You've got to miss it, and they don't have to go through that.
They will never have to from now on, because that's how our society is. And it's like
this DVD was 2001, copyright 2001, Warner Brothers Home Video.
Wow.
Now, and here's something.
That was a year after I got my first DVD player, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it was early. We probably just gotten our first as a family. Like, I didn't even have my own, obviously. So on the actual disc itself, I'd even forgotten about this. And I know by the time DVD came along, it wasn't as big of a thing. But Masters of the Universe, the live action motion picture. And then down below there, it says widescreen.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So, especially on VHSs, most of them were full screen. And every once in a while, you'd have ones that you could choose full screen or widescreen. If your family had the option, which one were they going with?
Oh, on VHS, it was always full screen. But
always. My dad was always full screen.
Yep. And then the snobbery when DVD hit, because suddenly that was an option. They don't give it to you anymore, but there was do you want full screen or do you want widescreen? Right. And for some reason, when that hit, I was like, no, I want widescreen from now on, because it's a DVD. You're getting the best picture you possibly can, and you get the experience again. Yep. And it was funny when my wife and I moved in together. She actually has copies of movies that are widescreen. At the minute I saw that, I'm like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
Like, there were years, like only like 2 or 5 years previously, I want to say, there would have been that whole like, well, of course you want full screen. Why would you have the bars?
Why? That was it. That was my dad. So for those who don't know, movie theater screens were always, well, like our video screens right here. Right? You got the nice rectangle going on.
Yeah.
So all films were filmed in widescreen. Then when the VHS came out, home TVs at the time were squares.
Yep.
Instead of the rectangles. So then they would actually cut, like, basically trim out the edges so that it would fill up your TV screen. That was full screen, where it was cropped. So that would fit. And you'd have a full screen. If you got the widescreen, you'd actually get the full picture, but there'd be a black bar at the top and at the bottom of your TV. Yep. And my dad was why would I pay to have black on my TV? If I'm having to pay for a movie, I want it to fill the whole TV.
Yeah.
And so we were full screen, always full screen. Why would you bother with widescreen? Mm-hmm. Until we actually got TVs, once they came out with the flat TVs and they actually were rectangles, and it's like, oh, this makes sense now. I'm a dumb kid. I'm like saying, yeah, full screen. Why would I want to see black? You know? That's not even an option anymore. Like, but, and you even see it to this day, like on the Nintendo Switch, they've got the emulators for like Nintendo and Super Nintendo, and it's got these bars on the side because those games were made to be played on a square television, not a rectangular one.
Yep. No, I remember, and it was like you were just programmed that your TV needed to be completely full of the picture, no matter what. And like as a kid, it didn't even cross my mind that I'm missing something.
Nope, never did.
I remember. They did like the Sunday night movie. ABC back in the day used to do like Sunday night movie or whatever. It was different nights of the week they do a movie, and the one that I remember to this day was we taped Ghostbusters when that one was on that movie, and as a kid, I'm watching this and like there's that scene in the library when Peter, Ray, and Egon are going to check out what this library ghost is all about. And there's that one scene where the bookcase falls down behind them. Yep. And they all jump, and then the shot goes right to Bill Murray's face. He's like, this happened to you before? And he's like, first time. And it literally just stayed on his face. So I just was like, I don't know who he's talking to and stuff. And then the next thing you know, when you get the DVD and you're watching, you're like, yeah, it's been Ray all along. I had no idea.
Yeah, see, I never, and again, because it was so far between, even if you saw a movie in theaters, by the time it ended up coming out on VHS, you've only got the memories of it. So you're just like, you don't realize all the stuff that's trimmed out when you go to full screen. But it was that all our dads were like, well, I'm not going to pay why would I pay for this TV to have bars on the side? It's like,
but then they would do the pan and scan, which was even weirder because you'd have a moment where if there was something cut out, they would try and pan over to let see whatever the reaction would be, and it would be the most weird, herky-jerky looking thing to get that effect to happen. And that was like, I think when I got a DVD and it was in full screen, that was when I'm like, this is why I'm never doing this again, because if I get a DVD, it's such a clear picture. I don't want it to have that effect because it looked so, it really was like, it felt like a weird video game cutscene, the way they had to make that pan and scan pull off.
Yeah, because they're basically, so you should be able to see both people, but since you can't, they basically freeze frame it, but let the dialogue keep playing and just kind of like, all right, so instead of seeing both, you're just going to see this guy. But then as it's going, you're going to just kind of come over to this guy. But it doesn't actually sync up because there shouldn't be camera movement there.
That would be one of those cases in point where if I had to deal with a dad like yours doing the whole, I would have seen the whole screen. It's like, is that how that was supposed to work? Really? Just have a few points of like, I think this might warrant maybe the idea that the bars aren't a bad thing anymore. But
VHSs, a lost art form. You know what? Actually, one of the, I might have to start, especially after talking about them today. One of the things I would love is to have all of those VHSs, Magic Window, Clamshell. That might have to be, now that I got the books done, I might have to start on VHSs. It'd be really cool if someone would put together a poster of just all that artwork, like all the covers. But next best thing would be to have the full collection. That might have to be my next niche thing. Magic Window, though, not RCA. I'm not a savage.
Well, I got whatever I could have at that point.
I know. I'm just saying.
No, honestly, like the Magic Window ones, I remember when I'd go to the video store, I would stand there and I'd look at them and I'd either know what episode it was, or when I'd see how they did the thing, I'm like, my God, it's like, if I go back into the sci-fi area, there's probably a Barbarian movie that looks almost identical to what they did there. And they were like really trying to have the influences work so that the kids then could look at that. And then they look at something else and go, I need to pick that movie up too, because that looks awesome, just like the cover of the He-Man video.
Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, let me see if I can get another one closer up, because I know the one I did by itself was Secret of the Sword, which is like straight filmation, but actually they had like their whole different like color style for that. Like it was much more, I don't know how you'd, subdued tones. Let me get one up here. Shawn, you're more the artist, but yeah, they definitely almost oil painting-y to a kid.
I don't know if I ever saw these then.
I'm just, you've seen.
Oh yeah. Okay.
You know what I'm saying about the colors? Like they're not that bright filmation. There's just there's a slightly duller muted color scheme that makes it look a little bit more realistic, for lack of a better word. Like
some of that, I almost wonder if that's the age of the thing or not, though, in some ways, because I know some of them, they did look a little more that way, and then others were even brighter than filmation. So there was like an inconsistency between some of those, because like the one that you were talking about with the He-Man and Teela with the serpent behind them, one was bright. I remember that, and then this one being, yeah, they could have been trying to play into the style of the era.
So see how like the He-Man and
Yeah.
Teela up there, like those are the ones from like the cover, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So they've kind of got that duller, you know,
Mm-hmm.
more oily, and then down here we've got the characters actually from the cartoon.
Yep.
And they're just that brighter. They're just slightly different, but like that's what I'm saying. Just those covers just look so much more epic, especially to a kid. Like, oh my god, like you know.
Yeah, it's almost like they just took the cell, but then they took out the color and then they airbrushed.
Airbrush. That's a good word.
Yeah, it's almost like an airbrush painterly look, like you're saying, versus that cell shading the way that they have for the bottom part.
Yeah,
So,
this also proves that Merman was always supposed to be green because he is fully green there, and it was actually the color correcting on the TV stations that made him appear blue in the cartoon. I'll hang that back up later. But yeah, just that kind of thing. So we're seeing. Oh, let me on. No one wants to see me that big. So yeah, that's what I'm saying. So just seeing them on the wall like that with that more airbrush, like darker look was like, oh my god, this is. You know, it's kind of a medium between the early box art and Filmation, like kind of meeting in the middle where it's like, okay, these are a little bit more realistic, a little bit more, you know, dark or gritty.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's all, you know, you get the same cartoon and it all works out.
And it's amazing. And that kind of leads us into our last little bit of news here roundaboutly. And that is that continuing in the grand scheme, we will actually be able to get the CGI He-Man in the Masters of the Universe, the complete series on DVD.
Yep.
This is coming out October 10th
right
by
before my birthday.
Mill Creek Entertainment. Currently only in the U.S. and with no additional extras or language information. So, but it will have all 26 episodes of the CGI series.
It does. It makes me slightly like to hear complete series. It does hurt because we never got an official confirmation one way or the other of what way they were going with this show. But
we still haven't. So to me, my glasses half full type thing, I'm going, well, okay, this is the He-Man and the Masters of the Universe complete series.
Yeah.
And then maybe we have Masters of the Universe Horde Invasion, the complete series. Or Masters of the Universe Princess of Power, the complete series. Or like they could read, Justice League Unlimited style. Like we could still keep going and kind of rebrand and, but we can put all this out now as a nice box set, which is where I think they're going with it. So
I think it's probably just going, okay, what we did on Netflix is what we're giving you, but the chances of something else, because honestly, it left the door open enough that I'm like, I really hope they walk through it again because, I mean, you and I definitely are some of the biggest fans of that series, and it's like I'd love to revisit it again.
Hey, 6 seasons in the movie, baby. 6 seasons in the movie.
We're halfway there. Let's do this. But I mean, I gotta admit, it kind of blew my mind in the last few weeks. My cousin let me borrow his PlayStation 4, and he also gave me a few games, and one of them was the Spider-Man game that they made.
Oh, I still want to play that. That looks amazing, but I don't have a current enough
had
console.
both the Spider-Man and the Spider-Man Miles Morales. So my kids went crazy because number one, they love Spidey, and then my
Yep.
son is huge on Miles. And it shocked me to find out that the same voice actor that does Peter / Spider-Man in those video games is Adam and He-Man on the CGI series.
Oh, really?
So when you hear him doing the voice of He-Man now, I also hear Spider-Man too, from the fact that we played this game
That's
so
awesome.
much. I'm just like, I think he did a great Yuri Lowenthal. if I
Yeah.
remember. And he did such a great version for both of those characters,
Mhm.
for both He-Man and Adam on that show.
Absolutely.
And I really wish I remembered the name of the actor who did Skeletor, because he really worked on that show.
Like I've said, I can't put him over Alan just because of nostalgia, but he's really, really close. Like, if I hadn't grown up with Alan, he probably would be. There's too many He-Mans out right now. I can't. Yeah, it wants to jump right to obviously Alan, and then it wants to go to Mark.
Mark Hamill.
Yuri Lowenthal. Come on. People are like, come on, this is horrible television. It really got Beastman and Orko before Skeletor. Ben Diskin. I wouldn't have gotten that. I guess I didn't know his name.
And then it was, what was it? Brian Dobson.
That was 2000X. Yeah.
Yeah. And I like him too. I mean, out of the, and I don't remember the New Adventures one that much, so I'm not even going to go there right now. But like, out of the traditional Skeletors that we've had, I don't know. For me, and I feel weird saying this, for me, like, Mark Hamill still has that he's Mark Hamill vibe about it. I don't dislike it. When I'm watching the series, it kind of washes over me eventually, and then I'm like, okay, it's still Skeletor. But like Brian Dobson, Alan Oppenheimer, and Ben Diskin, but they all just made those their own in that way. And then Mark Hamill is kind of, I'm Mark Hamill, and I can also do Skeletor. You know, it's that kind of a vibe every time I hear him on either Revelation or the Revolution leaked stuff that we saw.
So yeah, Ben Diskin, he's actually had quite a long career. Not a lot of stuff I've seen some anime, Naruto, Alpha and Omega. Codename Kids Next Door, he was number 2. And then Legends of Tomorrow, he was Bebo. That I don't remember Bebo.
I don't either. I watched a little bit of that show.
Marvel's Hulk and the Agents of Smash. That was an animated show. I never watched it though, but he was Scar in that. Spectacular Spider-Man. He was actually Eddie Brock. The Wonder Years, he played young Paul Pfeiffer. He's been around for a while, but I don't really know a lot of his other stuff. So, yeah. He's a spectacular Skeletor.
He is, and the writing on him as well. Like I remember when we watched that the first time, I'm like, holy shit, he won.
Yeah. No, I definitely got to pick this up, obviously, to keep the collection going and to support it. I mean, we want 6 seasons in a movie. Let's get out there and buy these DVDs and show Mattel or Netflix or whoever that there is interest in it. And that's what we need to do. But the fact that they have not come out and said we're not doing anything else in this universe speaks volumes to me. So maybe they're definitely obviously not at the point where they're ready to announce anything, but they're obviously not ready to give it up either. So
I would hate to be somebody that champions this just like a champion 2000X and have the same reaction from Mattel, but
Yeah.
I feel like they're finally going, you know what? It's all viable now. Because 2000X is back on Amazon Prime now.
Mm-hmm.
And they also put it on YouTube. That's why some of our episodes can't even be on YouTube. And so it's like, okay. I mean, at least they got a second or third chance, I guess, now.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I'm hoping they do the same thing with this show. So.
Yep, exactly. And do it now while we can. Like, it's too late for 2000X. I would not want them to revisit the well at this point. But let's keep this going. And like I said in our earlier episode, if they want to just do direct to DVD movies, I'd be down for that. Like, you know, that's what I mean. There's so many options here. Them releasing this as the complete series means nothing. Like, they're just saying, hey, this is this.
Yeah.
I mean, look at even Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That was hated. People are coming around now, but that was hated, and the series ended, and they got a movie after that. So, I mean, there's still a chance.
Yeah, and that movie was freaking great.
Rise? Or
Rise.
Mutant Mayhem?
Mutant Mayhem is incredible. I absolutely adore that movie, but the Rise one, for me, not really. I watched the series just out of curiosity, and I could see why fans weren't the biggest fans of it. If you grew up with the other versions, I'm kind of one of those people with the Turtles where it's like I had never watched the live action stuff that they did in the 90s, but I've always dabbled in the cartoons at least. And I was like, I could see why people don't like this so much. And then when the movie hit, I'm like, oh my God, like, where was this on this show? Because this would have, nobody would have hated the show if they would have done that through the whole thing, because it was amazing.
Oh, you gotta love it.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I think that's an episode. Hopefully we have entertained you. Hopefully we brought back some nostalgia. Let us know what your trips to the video store were like. What did you always look for? Did you rent movies a bunch of times? Let us know. Join us on Legendati Facebook group. It's a private group. You can share anything you want there. Obviously, like, share, subscribe. We're still chasing 1,000, guys. Come on, help us out. Get the 20 or so of you, get on there, click that subscribe. You've been enjoying us, just do it. And until next time, have fun at PowerCon.
Oh, come on.